A 42-year-old mom left her 3-year-old twins in a car to suffocate while she jumped off a bridge, but her suicide attempt failed. Shirley Napoleon Alsime, 42, from South Florida, had a pair of 3-year-old twins. On the day of the incident, she left her children in the car and tried to take her own life by jumping off a bridge. Witnesses saw her jump and called the police. Alsime survived, but her 2 children were rushed to the hospital and were later pronounced dead. Alsime admitted to police that she had planned to kill her kids and herself due to financial struggles and overwhelming pressure. The medical examiner confirmed the children suffocated in the sealed car, ruling their deaths as homicide, not an accident. Alsime has been charged with 2 counts of manslaughter and child abuse. The case is still ongoing, and the court may file more serious charges against her as the investigation continues. Some people simply shouldn't have kids. Financial struggles aside, why take the lives of innocent children? What's your take on this case? Share your thoughts in the comments below. An 8-year-old girl was sexually assaulted by her father's brother, and the father ended up killing and dismembering his own brother. When the 8-year-old daughter came back home from her uncle's house, Rodriguez noticed her pants were soaked in blood. The little girl told him that her uncle had hurt her. Curious and out of his mind, Rodriguez immediately headed to his brother's house. As soon as his brother opened the door, Rodriguez attacked him and beat him unconscious. He then tied up his brother and tortured him. Eventually, Rodriguez grabbed an axe and dismembered his brother's body. The head, arms, legs, they were all stuffed into the suitcases, which he dumped into a lake. A few days later, hikers found the dismembered remains floating in the water. Police found Rodriguez's fingerprints on the victim, as well as blood in the trunk of his car, leading to his arrest. Rodriguez was sentenced to life in prison. What do you think about this case? Is Rodriguez a criminal or a hero? Should he be released without charges? Share your take in the comments below. A father kept his daughter locked in a dungeon for 24 years and had 7 children with her during that time. In late 1983, Joseph Fritzl pushed his daughter into a dungeon, handcuffed her, and left her on a bed in the cellar. From that moment, Elizabeth spent nearly 9,000 days without seeing sunlight or breathing fresh air, all while giving birth to 7 children with Fritzl. Some of these children were raised by him and his wife, claiming they were abandoned kids, while others spent their entire lives in the basement. In 2008, the case came to light when one of Elizabeth's children became critically ill and needed emergency medical care. The doctors became suspicious of the child's condition, and after police got involved, this horrifying case was finally uncovered. In 2009, Fritzl was sentenced to life in prison. But just recently, the court approved his transfer from a high-security prison to a regular one, which is seen as the first step toward his release. Fritzl, who now suffers from Alzheimer's, is considered no longer a threat to society by psychiatrists, claiming he has lost the ability to commit crimes. Joseph Fritzl's lawyers are planning to submit a parole application and believe he will be released by next year. Do you think he should be released? Share your thoughts in the comments below.
Yesterday, I woke him up to wake them up from school. My son wasn't moving, and I kept saying, "Freddie, please get up."
2 kids lost their lives to the cold in a parking lot at the Hollywood Casino. But their 29-year-old mother believes her children didn't die from the cold, they died because they didn't get the help they needed. Tatiana Williams, 29, was homeless with her 9-year-old son and 2-year-old daughter. Back in November, she reached out to the city for help but didn't receive any timely assistance. She made calls across state lines, contacted different cities, and even signed up for a waitlist in Detroit. But all she ever heard was, no shelters, no beds available. The children's father also kept dodging his responsibilities. Williams revealed that for the past 3 months, she and her 4 kids had been living in their van. She had been asking for help but kept getting turned away. She believes she did everything she could when she found her children unresponsive. She tried CPR and rushed them to the hospital. Her kids didn't die from the cold, she says. They died from not getting the help they needed. What's your take on this case? Did her children die because of her neglect, or because society failed to provide timely assistance? Share your thoughts in the comments below.
Please help me! Please help me! Please help me! A mother holding her 5-month-old twin daughters had to witness their tragic deaths at the hands of their father. In Jacksonville, Florida, 22-year-old Megan Hyatt's ex-boyfriend broke into her home, taking the lives of her twin daughters, leaving Megan blind and also killing Megan's father, who tried to protect his granddaughters. At the time, Megan tried to shield her daughters, which resulted in her being shot and losing her eyesight. Unfortunately, she couldn't save her twins, and her father lost his life while trying to protect them from the gunfire. In the end, her ex-boyfriend chose to take his own life. Survivor Megan revealed that her ex-boyfriend had been verbally abusive towards her in the past and refused to let her go even after their breakup. He had told her he wanted to destroy her life. After the incident, Megan suffered from countless nightmares every single day, and PTSD made it nearly impossible for her to live a normal life. It took her a long time to recover and to regain even a small sense of peace in her life. How do you feel about this case? What can people do to avoid getting involved with someone this dangerous? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Siam.
Be quiet! Take him back! Take him out! Take him out now!
2 gang members were sentenced to 40 years in prison after taking the life of a teenage girl, showing no remorse as they waved casually in court. 22-year-old Diego Hernandez Rivera and 26-year-old Miguel Alvarez Flores admitted to the murder of 15-year-old Genesis Cornecho. Reports suggest that Cornecho had been involved with a gang member, later marked as a sacrifice, and ultimately lost her life. After skipping school one day, she was taken to an apartment, held captive for several days, and forced to endure horrific and inhumane acts at the hands of gang members. In a plea deal, both received a 40-year prison sentence. Hernandez Rivera also pleaded guilty to an aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, which added 12 years to his sentence. However, the sentences will run concurrently. Facing Cornecho's grieving family in court, the pair displayed no regret. Instead, smiling and waving at cameras before their sentencing, a young girl's life was completely stolen, and a 40-year sentence doesn't seem to faze these two at all. They remain smug and defiant. Do you think 40 years is a fair punishment? Share your thoughts in the comments.
You said you wanted to kill him!
A 15-year-old boy struck his sleeping mother in the head about 20 times with a sledgehammer late at night, killing her instantly. 15-year-old Zachary Davis struck his sleeping mother, Melanie Davis, in the head about 20 times with a sledgehammer late at night in 2012, killing her instantly. He then attempted to burn down the house with gasoline, but the fire failed. Police discovered a blood-stained sledgehammer at the scene, matching the victim's wounds. Zachary's brother testified he heard nothing unusual that night, suggesting it was a premeditated crime. Zachary admitted feeling neglected and under immense pressure. Experts linked his behavior to depression from his father's death and antisocial personality traits. In court, he calmly detailed the crime, admitting to using the sledgehammer and saying he felt it was the right time. When asked if he regretted it, he showed no emotion. After 3 years of trial, Zachary received a life sentence with an additional 25 years for attempted arson. With Davis being 15 at the time, the case sparked debates on whether life imprisonment is appropriate for minors. Share your thoughts below. Because her mom took away her phone, a 14-year-old girl asked her 17-year-old boyfriend to take her mom's life, attempted to suffocate her. In July, East Point police responded to a call on Roxana Street about a home invasion and possible attempted murder. During the investigation, police uncovered the girl's plan. After meeting her boyfriend on social media, the girl plotted with him to kill her mom as revenge for taking her phone. On July 14th, the girl left the door unlocked for her boyfriend to sneak in. He entered the mom's bedroom and tried to smother her with a pillow. When she screamed, he began choking her. Fortunately, other adults arrived in time, and the boyfriend fled, leaving behind evidence, including a knife from the house. The mom was hospitalized but survived. After 2 months of investigation, police arrested the teens, who will be tried as adults. Though no one was killed, it's shocking teens could commit such a crime. A mother carries her child for 9 months, only for them to plan her death. Should they face adult charges? Share your thoughts.
They're following me! Mommy!
A 4-year-old girl tragically lost her life, allegedly at the hands of her mother's 16-year-old boyfriend, despite the mother's claims of his innocence. Evidence suggests the girl endured cruel treatment before her death. On April 2nd in Evansville, Indiana, police responded to a call and found 4-year-old Octavia unresponsive, lying on a mattress in the living room. She had bruises on her legs and neck, along with a bite mark on her arm. A witness claimed the injuries were caused by the 16-year-old boy. Octavia was rushed to the hospital but didn't survive. The exact cause of death is pending autopsy results. Octavia's mother, Destiny, initially told police the injuries were caused by a cat and concealed that the boy, Gonzalez, was living with her. Police later identified him as a missing juvenile from Fort Wayne. Destiny had previously been arrested for helping him escape detention, and a protective order was in place against him. Despite knowing Gonzalez had a history of disciplining Octavia, Destiny left her alone with him multiple times, leading to this tragedy. Now, Destiny faces a level 1 felony charge, while Gonzalez's charges have been upgraded to murder, carrying a potential sentence of 45 to 65 years. He will be tried as an adult. What do you think about this case? How could a mother bring someone like this into her home to care for her child? Share your thoughts in the comments below.
Not guilty of...
A man posed as a minor to lure a sick offender to a park, then took his life, claiming he was helping the police do their job. James Lewis Spencer pretended to be a child and started chatting with 37-year-old Sean Connery Showers on a social media app called Kik. After chatting for a while, Showers finally took the bait. He asked Spencer to meet him at the park for some adult activity, but instead, Spencer spotted Showers from his car, rolled down the window, pointed a gun at the sick offender, and pulled the trigger. Showers was left lifeless in the park. After his body was discovered, police quickly traced Spencer through Showers' phone. Spencer admitted to murdering Showers and was arrested without incident. Spencer claimed the police hadn't done enough to stop Showers. Back in 2009, Showers was sentenced to 30 months in federal prison for possessing inappropriate images of children. Then, in 2019, he was jailed again for 2 years for failing to register as a sick offender. While many believe Spencer did nothing wrong, he's likely to face first-degree murder charges. Do you think Spencer is guilty? Share your thoughts in the comments. A so-called adopted uncle took the life of 2-year-old Alistair and did unthinkable things to his twin sister, leaving one losing their life and the other severely injured. Jonathan Dunn, 27, who the twins' parents trusted like family, has pleaded guilty to all charges. Get this. Investigators dug up that Dunn had a record from 2017 for hurting kids. On December 21st, first responders found little Alistair unconscious on the front porch. At the hospital, they confirmed he had lost his life, his face and body marked with visible injuries. His twin sister ended up hospitalized with bleeding in her brain. Though Dunn tried to play it off as some accident from a fall, he later cracked during questioning and admitted to playing what he called a sick game with both kids. The court slapped him with life behind bars. No chance of parole. But here's what's really messing with people's heads. How did someone with a record of hurting kids get the green light to watch children again? Could this tragedy have been prevented if the parents had done their homework? What do y'all think? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.
I looked at it and then it popped in my head when I was right gonna throw it. And then I want them to be in jail for they won't do this like to other kids.
A 10-year-old kid lost his hand on his birthday after a couple of adults handed him a DIY firework. People are furious about this, and one suspect's already been nabbed. Instead of enjoying his birthday bash, Aaron ended up becoming what investigators are calling a victim of serious child endangerment. Walter Rev, 27, is locked up right now, while the cops are still on the hunt for the second suspect. Get this, the explosion was so intense, it rocked nearby parked cars. Aaron says these adults lit up the firework and just handed it to him. When he tried to toss it away, boom, it blew up right in his hand. Word is, these were grown adults, and one of them even has kids of their own. Like, how could they do something so messed up to a kid? The docs at the hospital pulled off some pretty innovative surgery, actually stitching Aaron's left arm into his stomach to help regrow the lost tissue. Even with this life-changing injury, this tough little dude's keeping his head up and still wants to play soccer. As this whole thing plays out in court, these guys could be slapped with charges of child endangerment and making explosive devices. I mean, seriously, a birthday gift? A kid's whole future? Why do some adults think their fun is worth a child's suffering?
Be quiet. Take him back. Take him out. Take him out now.
A 2-year-old girl was found abandoned in a home so filthy it was declared a biohazard, covered in bruises, and lost her life. all because her mother claimed she wasn't behaving well and left her there. Chantel Garner, 33, has been taken into custody and faces child abuse charges. The incident unfolded when Garner called 911 after finding her daughter Skylar unresponsive beneath a dresser. Investigations revealed the toddler suffered from severe hypothermia with visible frostbite marks on her hands and feet. Her life slipped away in an apartment where temperatures ranged from just 46 to 51 degrees Fahrenheit. Despite the broken heating system, Garner never reported it for repairs, leaving her children to endure the bitter cold. While Garner insists this was merely a tragedy born of neglect, the medical examination report tells a darker story. Skylar's body bore bruises everywhere, from her arms to her legs, face to back, and even her groin area. A significant wound was discovered on her neck, which investigators believe may have been caused by rodents after she lost consciousness. The 33-year-old mother claims her daughter's intimate area injuries were simply due to infrequent diaper changes and denies any misconduct. She stated that leaving the children at home was the easiest solution because they were difficult to manage. Eventually, she moved to her boyfriend's home, unable to tolerate the stench in her apartment, bringing food to her children just once daily. Her boyfriend, Brian Thomas, also faces charges, including 2 counts of criminal assistance. What's your take on this mother's actions? Can this truly be dismissed as mere neglect when children are forced to live in such conditions? Share your thoughts in the comments below. 3 kids were arrested by the FBI for allegedly robbing a bank in Houston. They were just 11, 12, and 16 years old. After the FBI released surveillance footage, 2 of the boys' parents turned them in to the police. Bank employees recalled that the 3 boys walked into the bank and handed a note to the teller containing threatening demands for cash. Everyone assumed they were armed at the time, so an undisclosed amount of money was put in a bag, and the 3 boys took off. By the time police arrived, they could only see the boys through security camera footage, so they decided to release the surveillance photos to the public. After the photos went public, tips started rolling in quickly, and 2 sets of parents brought their kids to the police. The boys were identified as being 16, 12, and 11 years old, but since they're minors, their names weren't released. All 3 suspects were reportedly taken into custody shortly after. What do you think should be their punishment? While they didn't cause any physical harm or injuries, being too lenient might lead them down an even darker path. Share your thoughts in the comments below. 3 kids were arrested by the FBI for allegedly robbing a bank in Houston. They were just 11, 12, and 16 years old. After the FBI released surveillance footage, 2 of the boys' parents turned them in to the police. Bank employees recalled that the 3 boys walked into the bank and handed a note to the teller containing threatening demands for cash. Everyone assumed they were armed at the time, so an undisclosed amount of money was put in a bag, and the 3 boys took off. By the time police arrived, they could only see the boys through security camera footage, so they decided to release the surveillance photos to the public. After the photos went public, tips started rolling in quickly, and 2 sets of parents brought their kids to the police. The boys were identified as being 16, 12, and 11 years old, but since they're minors, their names weren't released. All 3 suspects were reportedly taken into custody shortly after. What do you think should be their punishment? While they didn't cause any physical harm or injuries, being too lenient might lead them down an even darker path. Share your thoughts in the comments below.
I hope you die in prison as well.
In a shocking case that started with an argument over what to watch on TV, a man took the lives of his girlfriend and her 10-year-old son, later breaking down in court. Tyrone Johnson was convicted of murdering Stephanie Willis and her 10-year-old son, Ricky. Johnson claims he was acting in self-defense, saying Stephanie's actions forced him to pull the trigger. He says Ricky was accidentally caught in the crossfire when he ran into the room. But prosecutors didn't buy Johnson's lies. They painted a different picture. After killing his girlfriend, Johnson went hunting for Ricky, who was hiding. Bullet casings found under the little boy's bed backed up the prosecution's version of events. In court, Johnson was found guilty of murder, and prosecutors pushed for the death penalty. During sentencing, Johnson wiped away tears and begged for mercy, spending half an hour apologizing to his family. He even tried to blame what he called a corrupt justice system, claiming it was rigged against him. But none of it worked. The judge stood firm and sentenced Johnson to death. Do you think this sentence was too harsh? Did the judge make the right call? Share your thoughts in the comments below.
I agree with the family. I hope you die in prison as well. You know, if this was a death penalty state, you'd be getting the chair.
A 16-year-old broke down in court after being denied bond for murdering another teenager. 16-year-old Sean Simpson is charged with fatally shooting 16-year-old Aquavius Dawkins. He's being prosecuted under a new law that allows 16 and 17-year-olds to be charged as adults. Aquavius was running errands for his mother, walking along North Chester Street, when 3 shots rang out from behind. He fell into a pool of blood, while Aquavius's friend narrowly escaped Simpson's gunfire. The victim's grandmother said she knew Simpson, who had previously harassed and threatened her grandson at school. The 2 teens had met at Ashbrook High School, where Aquavius Dawkins was a football player. Police subsequently arrested Simpson, who thought the court would give him a lighter sentence due to his minor status. However, he broke down when he learned he was being denied bond and would be tried as an adult. This is considered one of the first local cases under the new law. Simpson's court date is set for February 18, 2025. If minors can't receive severe punishment for serious crimes, perhaps their crime rates can't be curbed. Do you think they should be charged as adults? Share your thoughts in the comments. A 12-year-old boy was charged with murdering a 9-year-old child, but received a lighter sentence because he showed remorse by calling 911. In 2014, 12-year-old Jamarian Lawhorn stabbed 9-year-old Michael Connor Verkerka in an unprovoked attack at a nearby playground. Michael's brother was present, but couldn't save his brother, helplessly watching as his sibling lost his life. After the incident, Lawhorn called 911, telling police he had stabbed someone and wanted them to arrest him so he could get the electric chair. In court, Lawhorn revealed that due to various inhumane treatments from his parents, he no longer wanted to live and was mentally unstable when he attacked the 9-year-old child. However, investigation showed that the killing was planned for months, and the boy knew what he did was wrong because he called 911. Police also found bruises on Lawhorn's body. His mother and stepfather were both charged with child abuse. Lawhorn was found guilty and served 6.5 years before being released in March 2021. Since then, he has graduated and started working with at-risk youth. What's your take on this case? Did Lawhorn take Michael's life because of his parents? Is that a valid reason? Should he have received a lighter sentence? Share your thoughts in the comments.
That's exactly what you did.
2 women at a Vegas hotel straight up robbed and killed a guy, and they're only getting 10 years minimum after cutting a plea deal. Erica Covington and Dariana Taylor pled guilty to second-degree murder for shooting Brian Alton Morano Solano. So here's what went down around 2:14 in the morning. Brian's caught on camera chatting with these 2 women in the Valley area. Then the security footage shows this wild scene at about 2:35 a.m., all 3 of them heading up to Brian's room. The video shows Brian wearing this bag across his chest. According to what these women told the cops, they were just planning to grab his bag, but things went south when the gun accidentally went off, and just like that, dude lost his life. Instead of calling for help after they shot him, Covington and Taylor just bounced. It took a housekeeper finding the victim's body 8 hours later. Here's the kicker: cops found these 2 explicit videos on Brian's phone with both Covington and Taylor in them. Brian's dad got up in court and laid it out straight. These women weren't satisfied just taking his stuff. They had to take his life too. I'm demanding justice for my son. Now get this, these 2 could walk free by 2033, including time served. What's your take on this sentence? To light? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.
Not guilty of...
A mother was thrown behind bars after she burned her daughter's rapist to death, right after he got out of prison. Maria del Carmen Garcia's daughter Veronica was just a 13-year-old kid when Antonio Cosme, this sick monster, held her at knife point and took her innocence back in 1998. The creep got slapped with a 9-year prison sentence. Then in June 2005, while he was out on parole, he ran into Maria at a bus stop. Instead of showing any remorse, this piece of work had the nerve to mock Maria, smirking while asking how her daughter was doing. Then he just waltzed into a bar like nothing happened. I mean, what mother could keep it together after that, right? Maria, completely losing it with rage, fear, and hysteria after his taunting, made a beeline for the nearest gas station and grabbed herself a can of fuel. She stormed into that bar, dumped the gas all over Cosme's head, and lit that rapist up. Cosme ended up with burns over 90 of his body and kicked the bucket in the hospital a few days later. Maria got hit with a 9.5-year sentence, which they knocked down to 5.5 years after appeal. So get this, a guy who rapes a 13-year-old girl gets 9 years, but a mother fighting for justice for her daughter has to rot in prison for 5.5 years. Is this what we're calling justice these days? This 14-year-old kid who just admitted to breaking into his 91-year-old neighbor's house and straight up assaulting and attacking her. This poor 91-year-old lady gets woken up in the middle of the night by some weird noises outside. When she goes to see what's up, she spots this shadow in her hallway. Out of nowhere, this shadow jumps her and does something absolutely monstrous to her. Being pitch black and all, she had no clue who was doing this to her. Later on, and this is where it gets wild, she sees the security footage and recognizes the attacker. You're not gonna believe this, but it was her 14-year-old neighbor, Jessie Stone. According to her, Stone was always the super polite kid who would stop and chat with her like everything was cool. Stone finally fessed up to the whole thing in the interrogation room, and now he's been charged. Even though he's just a teenager, they're throwing the book at him and charging him as an adult. So here's the big question. You think it's right to charge him as an adult? Or maybe you think going easy on these young offenders is just asking for trouble and encouraging more crime? What's your take on this? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.
7 people were arrested after committing major fraud and attempting to bribe a juror to secure a not guilty verdict. They claim to have provided millions of meals to children during the pandemic to raise funds, but in reality, they kept the money for themselves. The 7 were on trial for a major fraud case when a Somali woman left a bag with $120,000 in cash on a juror's doorstep. She told the juror's family that more money would come if the juror voted not guilty. The juror immediately reported the incident to the police and withdrew from the case, leading to the arrest of the 7 individuals. It's worth noting that these defendants are just the first of 70 people charged in this case, which is one of the largest fraud schemes in U.S. history. They exploited relaxed rules put in place during the pandemic to prevent an economic collapse, stealing over $250 million in federal funds. So far, only $50 million has been recovered. The relaxed rules were meant to help those who truly needed it, but instead became a tool for criminals to profit. Was this cost worth it? 7 people were arrested after committing major fraud and attempting to bribe a juror to secure a not guilty verdict. They claim to have provided millions of meals to children during the pandemic to raise funds, but in reality, they kept the money for themselves. The 7 were on trial for a major fraud case when a Somali woman left a bag with $120,000 in cash on a juror's doorstep. She told the juror's family that more money would come if the juror voted not guilty. The juror immediately reported the incident to the police and withdrew from the case, leading to the arrest of the 7 individuals. It's worth noting that these defendants are just the first of 70 people charged in this case, which is one of the largest fraud schemes in U.S. history. They exploited relaxed rules put in place during the pandemic to prevent an economic collapse, stealing over $250 million in federal funds. So far, only $50 million has been recovered. The relaxed rules were meant to help those who truly needed it, but instead became a tool for criminals to profit. Was this cost worth it?
This guy scammed over $100 million by sending fake invoices, and Facebook and Google just kept paying. Yep, you heard that right. Facebook and Google got scammed. Between 2013 and 2015, Evildias Rimas Ki from Lithuania forged invoices for products that weren't ever ordered, scamming $99 million from Facebook and $23 million from Google. Evildias set up a company in Latvia with a name almost identical to Quanta Computer Incorporated, a Taiwan-based computer and electronics manufacturer that worked closely with major tech companies. But instead of paying for legitimate services, Meta and Google were wiring money into bank accounts controlled by Evildias in Latvia and Cyprus. To explain the huge amounts of money flowing in, he used fake invoices, contracts, and letters that looked like they were signed by executives and agents from Google and Facebook. In 2017, Evildias, then 50 years old, was arrested by Lithuanian authorities and extradited to New York. He pled guilty to 1 count of wire fraud and, in 2019, was sentenced to 60 months in prison for his scheme. Tech giants spend billions every year on cybercausatia, but they still fell for such a simple scam. Does this mean all that money spent on protection really makes a difference? This guy scammed over $100 million by sending fake invoices, and Facebook and Google just kept paying. Yeah, you heard that right. Facebook and Google got scammed. Between 2013 and 2015, Evaldias Rimas KI from Lithuania forged invoices for products that weren't ever ordered, scamming $99 million from Facebook and $23 million from Google. Evaldias set up a company in Latvia with a name almost identical to Quanta Computer Incorporated, a Taiwan-based computer and electronics manufacturer that worked closely with major tech companies. But instead of paying for legitimate services, Meta and Google were wiring money into bank accounts controlled by Evaldias in Latvia and Cyprus. To explain the huge amounts of money flowing in, he used fake invoices, contracts, and letters that looked like they were signed by executives and agents from Google and Facebook. In 2017, Evaldias, then 50 years old, was arrested by Lithuanian authorities and extradited to New York. He pled guilty to one count of wire fraud and, in 2019, was sentenced to 60 months in prison for his scheme. Tech giants spend billions every year on cybercausatia, but they still fell for such a simple scam. Does this mean all that money spent on protection really makes a difference?
You wanna fucking take my kids from me and act like that? Fuck you and that fucking
12-year-old Peyton Leitner, after a birthday sleepover, was stabbed 19 times by her two friends, Morgan Geyser and Denisa Weyer. Peyton managed to crawl out of the woods, covered in wounds. Police then launched a ground search for the two missing girls. Peyton's mom, Christy, found goodbye messages on her daughter's phone, written by Anissa, hinting at their plan. Meanwhile, Surgeon John Kellerman described the details of Peyton's heart being pierced, saying that if the wound had been just a little deeper, she could have died within 1 or 2 minutes from massive blood loss. Hours later, the two suspects were found walking along Highway 94 and taken into custody. At the police station, the girls explained their plan, saying they wanted to kill Peyton to prove the existence of the fictional character Slender Man and become his proxy. In the end, Peyton gradually regained her ability to communicate while recovering in the hospital. Morgan Geyser and Denisa Weyer were tried as adults due to the severity of the case. Later, they were sentenced 2 years in mental health institutions instead of prison, as they were diagnosed with severe mental health issues. But this leaves the question, what kind of reality drives 12-year-old girls to lose themselves in delusions and turn fantasy into a brutal reality?
Oh my God! Oh my God!
A sister tracked down her brother's killer, took his life, and texted her late brother, "It's done." In Kansas City, Missouri, 21-year-old Tishane Kopi sought revenge for her 16-year-old brother's murder by taking the life of Keith Lars. She's now charged with second-degree murder and armed criminal action. Her 16-year-old brother, Jason Ugw Jr., was killed on January 10. Allegedly, Jason was shot while walking home from school with 2 teenage friends near the BP gas station at the intersection of I-40 and Topping Avenue. Witnesses reported seeing a car pull up next to them, a window roll down, and the barrel of a gun appear. Moments later, Jason's life was cut short by gunfire. His friends managed to escape the scene unharmed and called the police as soon as they got home. Afterward, Tishane conducted her own investigation and identified the car involved in the shooting. She then planned a meeting with the car's owner, Keith Lars, whom she believed to be her brother's killer. During the meeting, Tishane ambushed Keith, shooting him in the chest and leg. Keith's friends tried to save him by putting him in their car, but he died before they could get help. After watching them drive away, Tishane texted a family member, admitting to the crime. She then sent a message to her late brother Jason, "I got him. Rest in peace." Tishane gave up her entire life just to bring her brother peace. Do you think what she did was right or wrong? Share your thoughts.
You had no right to take her from me!
A Minnesota man took his sister's life and dismembered her after finding out she was pregnant and no longer pure. On May 23rd, 23-year-old Jack invited his 30-year-old sister, Bethany Ann Israel, over for dinner. Later that night, Bethany didn't return home, and their mom started to worry. She went to Jack's house to look for her, and when she arrived, she saw Jack running out of the house and driving away. She went inside to search for Bethany and found what she described as a massive amount of blood. She immediately called 911. When the police arrived, they found not only the blood, but also a hatchet, a saw, knives, and, horrifyingly, some body parts. Police found Jack's journal inside his home, where he wrote about his disappointment in his sister She was a 30-year-old married woman, and he was upset that she was pregnant because she had lost her innocence. Then, a woman called in, telling dispatch that she saw a man on her doorbell camera placing body parts on her front porch. Police rushed to her house and found parts of Bethany Ann's body. And at a neighbor's house, they found Jack with a self-inflicted knife wound to his neck. Jack has been charged with second-degree murder, with intent and second-degree murder of an unborn infant. How could someone who's supposed to love and protect their own sister turn into a killer over something as shocking and senseless as this? This was the terrifying moment for a 14-year-old wrongly accused. In 1944, George Stinney Jr. became the youngest person executed in 20th century America. In the small town of Alkaloo, South Carolina, 2 young white girls were found brutally murdered, and the boy, George, who was of a different skin color, quickly became the prime suspect. After his arrest, he went through 2 rushed trials. The jury convicted him in just 10 minutes, even though the evidence was unreliable and there was no solid proof linking him to the crime. George was sentenced to death. His execution took place just 83 days after the murder. The terrifying electric chair ended George's life. Decades later, in 2014, a judge in South Carolina overturned George's conviction, admitting that a grave mistake had been made. So, how could such an obvious injustice happen and come with such a devastating cost?
You had no right to take her from me!
A Minnesota man took his sister's life and dismembered her after finding out she was pregnant and no longer pure. On May 23rd, 23-year-old Jack invited his 30-year-old sister, Bethany Ann Israel, over for dinner. Later that night, Bethany didn't return home, and their mom started to worry. She went to Jack's house to look for her, and when she arrived, she saw Jack running out of the house and driving away. She went inside to search for Bethany and found what she described as a massive amount of blood. She immediately called 911. When the police arrived, they found not only the blood, but also a hatchet, a saw, knives, and, horrifyingly, some body parts. Police found Jack's journal inside his home, where he wrote about his disappointment in his sister. She was a 30-year-old married woman, and he was upset that she was pregnant because she had lost her innocence. Then, a woman called in, telling dispatch that she saw a man on her doorbell camera placing body parts on her front porch. Police rushed to her house and found parts of Bethany Ann's body. And at a neighbor's house, they found Jack with a self-inflicted knife wound to his neck. Jack has been charged with second-degree murder, with intent and second-degree murder of an unborn infant. How could someone who's supposed to love and protect their own sister turn into a killer over something as shocking and senseless as this?
I hope you get exactly what you deserve in prison, and you know what's gonna happen to you when you go to prison.
He saved a drowning boy at a swimming pool and was arrested and charged for it. This is just ridiculous. 23-year-old Zachary Stein was a lifeguard. At a park pool, a 5-year-old boy nearly drowned, but Zachary saved him, preventing a tragedy. Yet, instead of being thanked, Zachary was arrested, with authorities charging him for endangering the boy's life. In the surveillance footage, you can see that there were 8 kids in the pool, and Zachary was the only lifeguard on duty. The boy had been underwater for nearly 4 minutes before Zachary rescued him. Despite performing CPR at the scene, which revived the child, the police believed Zachary didn't jump into the water fast enough to save the boy. Zachary wasn't distracted by a phone or anything else at the time. As a result, Zachary was fired. Even though he had been a full-time lifeguard for 6 years and saved a life, he was still charged with reckless endangerment and child abuse risk. Do you think this punishment is fair? Share your thoughts in the comments.
You lied! You lied to me!
This is a moment of a mother nearly losing her mind in court as she and her husband accused their son, Liam Ashley, and sent him to prison, only for Liam to lose his life behind bars. In 2006, Ian and Lorraine Ashley pressed criminal charges against their son after he took his mother's car without permission. The Ashleys hoped that by sending him to prison, he'd learn his lesson and avoid making bigger mistakes in the future. Liam, who was 17 at the time, had previously gotten into trouble with the police, so his parents refused to bail him out, thinking the prison system would be the safest place for him and would correct his behavior, acting as a substitute for their parenting. Liam was placed in a prison van and shared a compartment with 2 other men, one of whom was George Baker, a dangerous criminal Baker attacked Liam, causing severe brain injuries. The following day, on August 25th at 10:30 a.m., Liam's family made the decision to take him off life support. He passed away 15 minutes later at 10:45 a.m. Baker later admitted to the murder, claiming he attacked Liam because he looked like a snitch. Baker was sentenced to 18 years in prison. While Liam's parents hoped the prison system would correct his behavior and protect him from greater danger, it ultimately led to his death. Should we question the parents' decision, or is the real issue the flaws in the prison system? Could this tragedy have been prevented? Chris McBride is just 17 years old, but he's already a father. And who the mother is will shock you. She used to be his nanny. At the time, the nanny, Marissa Murray, was 22 years old, making her 11 years older than Chris McBride. Marissa Murray misled Chris McBride through a game and initiated contact with him. Later, Marissa told Chris that she was having his baby. This photo shows him with his newborn son, Bentley. Chris kept the secret for 3 years while the nanny continued living with his family, even making up a story about another man being Bentley's father. Chris finally came clean to his mom, Nadine, saying, "Mom, Bentley is really my son." First, she didn't want to believe it, but the DNA test proved it was true. The nanny was charged with multiple counts of sexual offenses and was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Today, little Bentley is 5 years old, growing up under the care of his young father. And this 17-year-old dad says the nanny lured him with games. That was anything but innocent.
Not guilty of...
This is the moment a man was released after spending 16 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit. In 2008, 52-year-old Avil Marshall was sentenced to 25 years for murder based on surveillance footage, which showed him at the crime scene. Even though Marshall maintained his innocence, the footage clearly placed him there. Despite being in prison for 16 years, Marshall never gave up on proving his innocence.
They knew it would have proved my innocence, hoping I'd just shut up, and I said, nah, I'm gonna fight.
After 16 years, a new video surfaced, showing that the killer could have been one of the teenagers who were not captured on the surveillance footage at the time. After 16 years of fighting, Marshall was finally freed, and the case was reopened. What kind of compensation do you think the government should give Marshall? He was wrongly sentenced to prison, and who made him innocent? Who let him lose 16 years of time? He was wrongly sentenced to prison, and who made him innocent? Who let him lose 16 years of his life? Perhaps how much money is not enough. John and Emily couldn't accept that their 15-year-old daughter, Sophia, was pregnant, and they decided to take her 51-year-old boyfriend, George, to court. At 15, Sophia found out she was pregnant. For John and Emily, this was unimaginable. What made it worse was that Sophia's baby's father was their 51-year-old neighbor, George. John and Emily started questioning their parenting, but the harsh judgment society places on teen pregnancies left them feeling helpless. They felt like they had failed as parents. However, Sophia didn't see it as coercion. She admitted that her understanding of love and responsibility wasn't fully formed, but her decision reflected more than just her personal choice. It was a result of a lack of family and social support. As the case unfolded, John and Emily realized that Sophia's pregnancy wasn't an isolated incident. More teens, lacking proper education, were facing similar situations. In court, John and Emily blamed each other for not providing the right guidance. They believed society and the education system had failed them, leading to this outcome. Of course, in the end, they blamed George for everything. Under the judge's ruling, George was sentenced to a year in prison, but John and Emily weren't satisfied. They believed George had misled Sophia, leading to this outcome. What's your take on this situation? Was George's sentence fair? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. A 17-year-old basketball star from Philadelphia tragically lost his life just 2 days after releasing his first song as a drill rapper. He was getting in the car with his mom to head to school when suddenly there was some commotion. People caught up to him, opened fire, and hit him multiple times. He was rushed to the hospital, but sadly he passed away there. It's said he had released his first diss track and ended up upsetting some people. From what we know, he was a star in school and on the basketball court, with high SAT scores and likely the best player on the team. He had received multiple offers from colleges to play basketball, but sadly, he was living a double life, one as a student and the other in the streets. It was probably the street life that ultimately led to his downfall. This young man had everything going for him: good grades, basketball stardom, and some recognition at school. But unfortunately, he got caught up in street life, and that lifestyle destroyed him. He had it all, so why did the street culture still catch up to him? His mom must be heartbroken. This will be a lifelong trauma for her. Why do some young people, despite having a chance to make it out, still end up stuck in this reality?
This is a moment of a mother breaking down in court, her son still lying in the hospital after being hurt by a police officer. A former San Antonio police officer has been charged with aggravated assault after shooting a 17-year-old boy in a McDonald's parking lot. On October 2nd, police were called to the fast food restaurant for an alleged disturbance. James Brennan told investigators he recognised a car in the parking lot that had reportedly evaded him the day before when he tried to pull it over. Without identifying himself as an officer, Brennan is seen on body cam footage opening the car door and demanding the driver step out. The driver, 17-year-old Eric Cantu, tried to reverse the car when Brennan opened fire, shooting 10 rounds and hitting Cantu 4 times. Brennan, a rookie cop, was fired for his reckless actions and turned himself in to the authorities on Tuesday. He was arrested and charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon by a public servant, a first-degree felony. His bond was set at $200,000, but given his rookie status, he may receive a lighter sentence. Meanwhile, Cantu's family has stated that he is still fighting for his life, unconscious and on life support. Do you think Brennan should be excused from responsibility because of his rookie status? Share your thoughts in the comments.